Okay, everybody, I'm going to turn it over to Coach for a statement, and then I know you're lined up in the queue in the chat. We'll take your questions.
Good morning. Yeah, on to the next. It's the way this Big Ten season is shaping up. A lot of activity here towards the end. So obviously we play a Michigan State team that is coming off a great win at Michigan, a game in which they erupted for 52 or 53 points in the second half of that game. One of the outstanding players in this conference, Aaron Henry, got going, was very, very effective. And a team that is, even though they've had some ups and downs this year by their standards, which are extremely high, this is a team that's playing extremely hard. They are continuing to play for Tom, which they always will. His culture is so ingrained, and a team that's playing better of late, offensively and defensively both. So we're expecting a battle royal. They play as hard as anybody in the league. They're as physical as anybody in the league, and we've got to match that.
What made them more effective at Indiana?
They forced a lot of turnovers. Indiana turned the ball over. They did a very good job defensively. If you look at the box score, I think only one of Indiana's guards scored in the game. They let Trace have a big night. Trace had 34, I think, and was very, very effective. But it was turnovers. It was getting out in transition and easy baskets. They withstood a punch from Indiana to open the game, and then just really erupted the second half with 52 or 53 points.
The other night you said, I don't care, bring them on, in regards to big scheduling. It seems like you might be catching Michigan State at just the wrong time, but maybe that's
your
part of the
opinion.
excitement.
That's your opinion. I got no choice. I got no say. I got to play who we play.
Yeah. Thanks.
Brad, after such a performance against Minnesota, I'm curious, what is a film review session like after a game like that for you?
We didn't. We showed two clips. We showed one clip of a defensive rotation that was very impressive. We showed one clip that was a great baseline rotation. Both of those led to points in transition because of the efforts. And those were the only two possessions we had with our schedule right now. We've just got to move on. And, we're kind of hitting on some positives and didn't spend a lot of time. Didn't spend any, to be honest, 30 seconds.
So that's more schedule driven rather than there's nothing to learn from it kind of thing.
Yeah, we always, and we graded out. They saw the grades. But the one thing we don't do is we usually spend a lot of time on certain negatives, certain positives. We just didn't have the time to do that and move straight into Michigan State.
Thanks.
Hey, Coach, does this stretch that you guys have coming up maybe mimic a little bit of the NCAA tournament? I know you just mentioned, we don't have a lot of time. You're playing an opponent that you haven't seen yet this season. As far as scouting, how does this pace maybe prepare you for that?
Yeah, very similar. We've talked about that with our team. It's a one-day prep. It's quick. It's it's stressing all of the things that are very, very important, and that's recovery, that's sleep, that's hydration. We are kind of who we are in some areas. We'll continue to grow a little bit in some, but you hit your opponent, you move on, and then there's got to be a real mental sharpness to our guys in terms of what they cover, and they've got to know their assignments.
And what's the mood in practice right now? I mean, coming off that Minnesota win, are you guys still, riding that high a little bit, or what's kind of the mood right now?
No, I think the one thing that we really stress in this program is that's how we kind of put the final touches on a game, is that those last two clips, and then we move on to the next, and it's It's not anything about what Minnesota, that's long gone. And I think our guys are thinking about Michigan State because they're the next one up.
Thank you.
Good morning, Coach. You've spoken so much in the past couple of weeks and even years, I guess, about how important road wins are to you and your program's culture. Just kind of having to go on the road and win the Big Ten, which I know is one of your team's biggest goals, kind of bring some extra pride for you and your guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, some people make it more complicated. You've got to have toughness. You've got to have a culture that allows you to go win on the road. If you don't have any culture, you're not going to win on the road. That's something that I admire about the great programs in this conference and around the country is it's not just players, it's your culture. And but again, when I say it's complicated, it's literally just the next game. We can't worry about all that other stuff. We'll worry about all that and think about all that at the end. Right now, it's just got to be focused on Michigan State. We play them on a court that's there, happens to be at their place. We've talked about road wins all along. Our guys know that's what we take a lot of pride in. But to specify that as something we're shooting towards, we're not. It's just getting ready to face a really good Michigan State team who's coming off their best game.
Outside of the toughness that I guess is required to go win on the road, what kind of goes into building a culture that allows your team to win on the road so consistently? Yeah,
character, togetherness. You've got to have the right attitude. You've got to have the right amount of swag. You've got to have guys that are experienced, guys that are fearless, and then you've got to have execution to go with it. So we talk about those things every day in practice, and it doesn't matter where we play. We've got to go do our part, and if we don't do our part in this league, you get beat.
Thanks, Coach.
Hey, Brad, the other night, Io talked about that sense of urgency is here. They feel it with the schedule down to the last 2 weeks here and the goals laid out in place. Is there something you see out of those guys that you kind of know that, okay, this is, I know where their headspace is? I mean, are there any signs that you can read that out of them?
No, I think we're focused. I think we're, we see little things in practice. I mean, we're pretty sharp right now mentally. I think in terms of scouting report, we're not having to spend as much time on that stuff. I think that, obviously we're trying to compete for something that's out there, but I think we're pretty goal driven, and I like that. I think our team is pretty focused that way. And again, there's, one game at a time. We don't get ahead of anything, and we've got an NCAA tournament like week, and we've got to prepare for that.
Seems like these guys really know how to take those goals and be self-driven. I mean, just the way that I think you recruited them with championship calibers, you talked about that. Is that something where they kind of drive that themselves? I wouldn't think they probably need a lot of prodding on that front.
Well, it's as you said, winners win. Winners know how to win. There's certain guys that never win. They may be great players, but they never win. And it's not about how many stars you've got by your name, or it's all about character and the ability to withstand adversity, to deal with adversity, to toughen you up so you can handle road games, and then understand it's not about you, it's about us. I think this group is right there, is at the top of groups that I've had and been around.
Thanks, Brad.
Brett, I just had a quick follow-up to what Marley was talking about. These quick turnarounds, in your experience, is it a bigger mental or physical challenge?
Mental. The physical, we can't go on and on the court and high rep coverages or schemes, and so that turns into film work. It turns into your fundamentals, your principles, knowing that, hey, we're handling this way, we're handling this way against them. We got to take this away, and guys have to know and recognize that. And instead of doing it on the court, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, we may hit it once or twice, and then it's got to be absorbed through film.
And is the mental challenge just quick turnaround of your mind of focusing on the next, like you're trying with Minnesota?
Absolutely. You don't get the thrill or the emotion of enjoying that win or that little bit of success. You've got to immediately, I say all the time, you enjoy your post-game meal. And as soon as your post-game meal is over, it's post that game, not post next or pre-next game. It's post that game and it's over. Now you got to shift. And it's one of the great challenges of the NCAA tournament and the Big Ten tournament is it's a quick turn and it's much more mental than physical.
Thanks, Brad.
Hey, Coach, you guys are inside the top 10 in the country offensive efficiency. It's really been that way throughout the season. Wanted to ask you about Coach Gentry's involvement and what you've seen out of him and just kind of the control that he has with that offense.
Yeah, Steven does a great job with that. He dissects. He's very, very good at analyzing opponents in terms of what they're trying to do in certain coverages. It's been we've changed the way we've scouted this year. He handles all of the opponent's defenses against our offense, and Chen oversees the other side of that and the defensive coverages. It's about playing to our strengths against what our opponents try to do. And Steven's very, very dialed in on that. We've never wavered on the fact that we were going to play fast. Transition was going to be a big part of what we do. And yet the ball screen stuff has been something he's been great at. He's been dialed in terms of working with our guards, working with our bigs. Just like in the Minnesota game, we knew exactly where they were going to tag. We knew there were going to be some late lobs and opportunities there. So you get an advantage when you know that. Steven's very, very smart, very intelligent, and he's very thorough when it comes to those coverages. And it's been I like the way this is panned out. Our assistant coaches aren't on the road recruiting, so they're here all the time. So it was a way to restructure and maximize all of our guys' ability to be here and practice every day. And so thought a lot about that in pandemic and restructured it and really like it. And again, I think we've become more efficient on both ends. I think we're 8th offensively now, or right there, and I think we're 9th defensively now. We've got inside the top 10, and Chin's done an equally good job on the defensive side.
I know Io had a lot of success last year, second half of the year in particular, as a pick and roll decision maker. Maybe would have had more assists if more made shots by those around him. But have you noticed him take another step forward in that role, or what are you kind of seeing with him there, the ball in his hands? Yeah,
experience, strength has all been a part of that. Continued repetitions. Just understanding what defenses do to him. He's seen just about every type of defense now that there is to see. He's become much more patient. He's not trying to score on every ball screen. He's trying to make the right read and make winning plays. And again, when I think Kofi's number 1 in the country in efficiency from rim running and in ball screen actions, And, that helps. That draws a lot of attention. And just like the other night, Trent gets going and Jacob get going hitting threes. Now you've got to kind of pick your poison. And, Io's facilitating all of that with the ball in his hands and ball screens. So there's a lot of facets in that. It's a lot of fundamental teaching. It's a lot of strength. It's a lot of maturity. And we're starting to see, the ultimate rewards in that are his numbers he's putting up.
Thanks, Coach.
Hey, Brad, the new AP poll drops today, and you have teams like Michigan State, Duke, Kentucky, North Carolina not in the poll. What do you kind of think? Why do you kind of think that is? Do you think that's a COVID thing, or just a weird down year for all those teams? Or
I'm not in those practices. I don't want to talk about it. I got enough to worry about thinking about my own team instead of thinking about those teams. I don't know. I watched Duke a little bit the other night against Virginia. They played great. Maybe those young kids are growing up. It's, I know being early in this program and trying to win with a lot of young guys is really, really hard. I don't know, Brandon. I would just be speculating, and I don't like to do that because I'm not there in those programs. But we're all dealing with COVID, so it's not just COVID.
And then, as someone who's been a coach for quite some time now, how hard is it to sustain success year after year?
Very. Winning's hard. Winning's really, really, really hard. And that's why I wanted this job, because it's a program that's the 11th ranked program in the history of college basketball. And when you've had success and you've had history, it's easier to do that, but it's still really hard because you have to, in the Big Ten, I kept looking up at this league every single year thinking about who am I going to pass? Because they're not just going to let me pass them. They're not going to let Illinois basketball just jump them. It's hard. They've all got resources. They've all got facilities. They've all got cultures, traditions, great coaches. So it's hard. And I sure do not take winning for granted. It's like you said, when the blue bloods of the country can have off years, that shows you how hard winning is.
Thanks, Brad.
Hey, Brad, you've discussed just the advantages of having an older team, especially in a season like this. But when it comes to a one-day prep for Michigan State and maybe more of them coming here in the last couple of weeks, how much more of an advantage is that where you've got guys that have been through that in the Big Ten for 2, 3, 4 years?
Well, I hope it's huge. I think the one thing that I'm where it becomes very helpful, and this was huge with my SFA teams and postseason, was in-game changes become easy with a veteran team. It's not just about what you do before. You got to remember that other team's scheming too, and they're doing certain things. And those in-game adjustments become much easier with a veteran team. And your young guys, they're still trying to figure out what the heck you're doing, let alone being able to make an adjustment to an action that takes place in game. So that's where it's a real advantage.
And I suppose just because of the pandemic, does the rate of travel you'll have in the last 2 weeks of the season, does that present any extra challenges, just being away from home a little bit more?
No, I think the one thing that, the way we travel is we minimize it. It's pretty easy. I've said our hardest trip of the year is Northwestern, and it's in our own state. And the way we travel now is fine. We're adapted. We've got a routine in place. So we've got as much a routine in place on the road as we do it at home. So I'm not concerned about that.
Okay, thank you.
Brad, you've talked about how big transition is for your team, especially, with what you did this last weekend at Minnesota. Do you ever feel like this team's going too fast or going out of control? Have you had that feeling this year, or do you just trust the Ios and the Trents and the Bellows that are kind of running that deal, that they know what that feels like on both ends?
Yeah, we practice that way, so I don't mind aggressive turnovers. Not to say I like them, but I understand them. And aggressive turnovers happen sometimes when you play with speed and you play fast. But it's pretty hard with me to play too fast. Now once it's 5-on-5 in the half court, you've got to play with some pace and you got to play with some understanding. But in the broken court, it's speed wins there.
And even now, is the cliche still true that it's harder to speed up a game than it is to slow it down? And that's kind of one of the benefits you guys have of playing with transition and playing with pace like you do?
Yeah, there's no question. That's why I keep emphasizing our guards rebounding all the time. When our guards rebound, any of them, I mean, we're off, we're running, and it saves the second and a half or 2 seconds of an outlet, and the first dribble, we can get out and go, and that's when we're at our best.
Thanks, Brad.
You mentioned this after the Minnesota game, but just to kind of ask the question, why do you think that Io deserves the Player of the Year award?
I'll give you the same answer. Who's playing better? I mean, and it's not just about points. It's not. It goes beyond that. It's the winning plays. If we're talking about a most valuable player and a guy to his team, it can't be about one statistical category. It can't be about the fact that he, gets 20. It's about impact winning. And it's not just about that he got 2 triple doubles. It's about the shots that he hits, the passes that he makes. All those lead to success and winning. And I'm not downplaying any other player in the country. I'm talking about our guy. And I just know that right now what I have seen, it's as impactful as any player out there. He's efficient, and it's. I hope people are taking notice. I hope people are enjoying watching it.
Hey, Brad, there's this website that kind of compares how your offensive and defensive efficiencies match up with teams in the past. And one of your similar profiles is the 2011-2012 K-State team with Magruder and Samuels and Spalding. Do you see a similarity between this team and that team?
That team didn't have Kofi. Yeah, I mean, that team was that team struggled more. That team was a grind it out, just have to, that team needed ugly. That team was and I don't mean that in a bad way, but that team was just a probably as gritty a group, nasty, fight you, kind of do it in an ugly way, offensive rebound. They were a little bit different. I haven't looked back that close at the numbers, but that's what I remember about that team was, we were really good at winning really, really ugly and trying to make them just smash mouth rock fights.
Thanks, Brad.
I'd like to wrap it up with asking about that thing a few weeks ago where you were having a really good time because you knew something and we didn't know shit about it. And I wonder if we know shit about it yet.
Nope.
All right. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
All right, that'll wrap us up. Thank you, everybody.